Hey there, my name is Cole Adams, and you are watching the best college basketball podcast out there that covers the entire sport of college basketball, brackets, bubbles, and bid stealers. Now, here are your hosts, Sam Fetterman and Jonathan Lidskin.
Episode 25 of Brackets, Bubbles, and Bid Stealers. I am Sam Fetterman. That is Jonathan Lidskin. Jonathan, how are you doing tonight?
Doing okay, Sam.
I'm not. I'm not. I'm unwell.
Disappointing trade deadline for our baseball team. Definitely could be better.
Yeah, we are joined by Griffin Barfield, the sports editor for the Clemson paper, to preview his Clemson Tigers. Griffin, welcome to the show.
I appreciate you guys having me. I've been listening a little bit. You guys have a fun time on here, so I'm just excited to get talking.
All right, so Clemson has. I've had an interesting journey with my opinion on Clemson basketball.
I think we
As
both
have you, Jonathan. I never really held Brad Brownell in high regard until this past year. And this year's Clemson team was one of my favorite teams in the country to watch all year long. I kept pounding the drum for them. And then I picked them to go to the Final Four. And then they put on arguably the worst first half by a favored 5 seed I've ever seen.
Yeah, we both picked them to go to a Final Four, and we were singing the Brad Brownell praises. The whole immortal jokes came out on Twitter. I really thought he was doing a good job, and Will Wade and that McNeese team was way more prepared from them. And by the time Clemson made their push in that game, it was too little, too late.
Unfortunately for me, I was there in Providence when that happened. I went the trip. It was during my spring break. I was in Savannah with some friends and watching the selection show. But then I'm like, I'm going to Providence. I want to watch this game, see if they make a run. And unfortunately, that was a little bit of a difficult watch. But I don't really know what to expect from this team this year. Unfortunately, it kind of, the revolving door of college sports. That's what happened to with Clemson this year. Kind of on the awful side, to say the least.
I'm going to be honest. Like, Jonathan and I are both really high on Clemson coming into this year. So we have looked at this and said, all right, the body of work over the last few years is very strong. 19th, 23rd, still returning some pieces. Dylan Hunter's back, RJ Godfrey, Marfos, and some really fun transfers in the program as well. So the ACC obviously getting better. Clemson probably not quite as good as they have been in the past couple of years, but should still be in position to have a great year. And I think that starts with the front court transfers of Nick Davidson and Carter Welling. This Davidson's been a guy that I've been talking about for a long time. When Nevada made their run to the NCAA tournament last year, Davidson was a guy that I was super high on. He had another tremendous year, had an even better year this year. Went from a 19% usage guy to a 25% usage guy. Went from a 9.5 assist rate guy to a 17.8 assist rate guy. And I think that's something that Clemson really values. If you look at what Brad Brownell has done over the past decade or so, he's always had kind of a trigger man 4-5 that can step out and shoot the three, but is also a really dynamic interior player. And Davidson is exactly that. He is a perfect fit in this Clemson system. Now, he's not the enforcer type. They're going to get that from RJ Godfrey off the bench. But I think that Davidson coming in from Nevada, this is an all ACC type player waiting to happen in Brad Brownell's system. Jonathan, anything to add?
Yeah, you said it all. Compliment for these players more in depth, but Davidson was a rock at Nevada last year, really good, and the year before, really good player. I think he's, like you said, a perfect fit for this system. He steps out and he shoots. He's able to be your trigger man on offense, hyper efficient. Just a very good, solid pickup overall. He was one of my favorite players in the portal. Sam, I'm guessing you probably would say the same.
Yeah, I was really excited when Clemson got him. 67% at the rim last year, 23 dunks. Also a guy that had a whole bunch of assists. He had 90 assists. That was second on the team. To be a guy that's able to hit 50 threes or however many threes he hit, 46. shoot 67% at the rim, and have 90 assists. I don't know how many guys in the country did that while also having a 5% block rate. Now, I think the block rate probably goes down a little bit, but Davidson is kind of the straw that's going to stir this drink. Griffin, what are your thoughts?
I do like the pickup. I didn't really know much about it. I knew that, of course, with the Mountain West, a lot of these pickups are from there. But I do like it. Like you said, Sam, in terms of how Brownell likes to use those 5 guys, he likes to stretch the floor. He did it with PJ Hall for 2-3 years. He did it with Victor Locken a little bit last year, and Victor Locken wasn't really a 3-point guy, and then he's hitting 3+ threes against North Carolina in one of the biggest games of the year. So I think that, especially with the way that he has been shooting from 3, he had an 8% increase last year from his year before. I think, like you said, I don't think that he's going to be the enforcer, but he's going to be that consistent forward guy that, frankly, every team is going to want to have. 6.5 rebounds, averages about a block a game, can play through contact. And then, of course, he can catch and shoot really well. I like his size. And like you said, I think that the ceiling for him is an all ACC type player. It's just a matter of if this team can all gel together, which I think, of course, with how Brownell likes to install that Clemson grit culture, I think that he'll be completely fine in the ACC. Another
name in the front court that I'm excited about would be Carter Welling coming in from Utah Valley. I didn't know much about Carter Welling throughout most of the year, but he popped up as a name on No Ceilings. I think Max and Steven were talking about him and the move to Clemson and how much they love the fit. And you know what? I love this fit too, because look, it's another big man that can be a little bit of a trigger type guy. He's a 12% assist rate, at 46 assists last year. That was like 5th on Utah Valley, but the key for him is that the volume at the rim is tremendous. The guarded catch and shoot was 43%. Last year, 46% from beyond the arc. So maybe there's some untapped shooting potential that maybe at 35% is underselling him. 7.7% block rate, gets to the line, super physical type player, plays bigger than the 225 that he's listed at, was dominant physically in that league, was the top player on that roster, which was a top 100 defense in defensive rating. So I think that he's going to be a key piece for this front court. Huge on what Welling and Davidson can do together. And then I think one of my favorite things about what Clemson did last year was the interplay that they had between their 2 bigs when they played with Locken and Ian Shefflin. Those were 2 guys that had that really good connection in the high-low game. I'm really interested to see how they do the high-low game with Welling and Davidson. I think both those guys can be the high man and the low man. I think both those guys can step out and shoot the 3. I honestly think that there's a little bit more offensive versatility from this front court than you even had last year. Probably not as good defensively and on the glass, but a little bit more offensive versatility.
Yeah, Sam, I think this team is really set up to do very similar things with their bigs that they did last year. The high-low that they run is pretty lethal. And when you have a guy like Davidson who can pass a little bit of physical presence inside like Welling, and then Godfrey off the bench, you can run kind of high-low with any combination of those 3 with as long as Welling or Davidson is passing. And then you throw Jake Leyland in the mix too. It's just a really deep group that I think is going to be really hard to guard because of how they can space the floor. But also, like, these guys are probably a lot better around the rim than they're going to get credit for when people are talking about them in the weeks leading up to the season.
Griffin?
With this front court, I think that there's a lot of promise. Like you said, I really like Welling's game. I think he's more of the high flyer than Davidson is. But like you said, I think that they can complement each other really well. Again, like I said before, with how Brownell likes to run those stretch 4s and stretch 5s, 35.3% from 3. I think that has the chance to go up. I think his weight can go up as well. He goes up strong. I think he uses his body really well. And watching the tapes of both Davidson and Welling, they both find space really well on the baseline, able to get to the cup really well. And Jonathan, to your point with Jake Wayland, same type of guy, just maybe a little bit younger. So in terms of how that front court's going to run, I mean, Brownell has said that the starting 3 are going to be Welling, Godfrey, and Davidson, just in some way, shape, or form of that. But off the bench, I think guys like Wayland, even a guy maybe under the radar. He's a freshman, Chase Thompson. He won Mr. Minnesota basketball, Mr. Minnesota football. So that's an athlete back there. Brownell also talked about how this was one of the most physically ready freshman classes that he's ever had. So I think that the possibilities are endless with what he can do. It's just a matter of what's going to work the best. But I think if he's going to start off, it's going to have to be Welling and Davidson. I think that they complement each other the best off the cut.
Yeah, I'm with you. Think Godfrey as kind of the enforcer type between those two is great. And I do think it's important to have kind of physicality off the bench, as you mentioned. Wallin is going to bring that. Thompson. So that being as important as it is for this Tiger team, you mentioned Brownell saying it's the most physically ready freshman class. Brownell has had a lot of success over years with guys in their third and fourth year in the program. I think that if you can get these guys in their first year with the program to really fit, which I think he can, and I think he recruited to it. I think there are certain coaches, and we talked about this on a Kentucky preview, that recruit around their system and some coaches that recruit to their system. Mark Pope this offseason recruited around his system. Brad Brownell recruited to his system, and I thought it was perfect. One of the better transfer portal hauls for anyone in my eyes this year. I almost said this semester. I want to talk now about the one starter that's going to be returning, Dylan Hunter, who is not his brother, but is there a little bit of Chris Murray, Keegan Murray going on here where Dylan can take that step up and become the Chase Hunter type player? Griffin, what are your thoughts?
I think that he could. He was kind of the big turning point with that Clemson starting five. He started his first game against Duke. He replaced Chauncey Wiggins, and then they won 9 straight games. Going into the ACC tournament, then he broke his wrist, and then Clemson lost 2 straight. They lost to Louisville, and then they lost to, of course, McNeese. So there's a lot of complete player. I think that he's going to be more of a senior leader of this team. He also led the team in turnover or assist to turnover ratio at 4.11, which I think is incredible. He makes smart decisions. Brownell knows that he makes smart decisions. I think that you'll see a little bit more of the 3-point as well. Shot 31% from 3 last year. The year before that was 25.7. His freshman year was 11% from beyond the arc. So he's only going to get better and better, and Brownell has given him the comfortability to shoot from afar. So I think that's going to work out well. I think that he's going to end up being the facilitator with this group, kind of be the leader for the young guys. I'm looking at Zach Foster, learning from him a lot in terms of being a facilitator and being a leader. But, guys, I think that you will see a little bit more of that point increase. He doesn't score a lot. He just kind of does the right things. But I think in some instances, he's going to have the ball in his hands. And I do think that he's very capable of hitting those big shots when they matter.
Jonathan, on Dylan, I know you're super high.
Yeah, he's one of my favorite point guards in the ACC. And I do say point guard because I don't think that Justin Porter is going to being this team's point guard. That's not who Justin Porter is. Dylan Hunter is a much better playmaker than him, and he takes care of the ball. And then one of the things that I think, comparing Dylan to Chase is kind of unfair. Not only because Chase was so impressive last year and the year before as a scorer. Dylan's just a different kind of player than Chase is. He's not as good of a shooter, but he's, I would say, a better playmaker from the point guard spot. He's a better defender in my opinion, and that's not just forcing turnovers. That's also guarding an attack. Like Dylan's splits, his on-off splits last year were off the charts, and I think in a bigger role this year, not playing half the minutes for you, he's going to have a pretty high impact on where this team goes.
Justin Porter comes in from Middle Tennessee, a guy that I thought was pretty inconsistent throughout the year. But I think that's kind of the thing. When you're looking for point guards, especially in the market shrinking as much as it did, going from having your super seniors to not having super seniors anymore, you got to look for the inconsistent guards that maybe have some potential. Porter's an excellent outside shooter, was 39% from 3 last year. I thought that he had some games where he looked like one of the better point guards in the country. Where are we on what Justin Porter can bring to the Tigers? Do we think he's going to be a really, really strong more two guard than point guard last year? But do we think he's going to be a really, really strong 2 guard? Do we think he's going to handle the ball a lot? What do we think is going to be his role?
I think that he works a little bit better off ball, like you said. Even if he is a little bit undersized, being 6'1", I think that being the 2 is a little bit better. I do like Dillon running the offense. He knows Brownell's schemes a little bit more. But like you said, I could see Porter ended up being a microwave type of player with this team. He scored 20 points on several occasions. He averaged 15 points. Not really a big passer, but he has a very quick release, catch and shoot. So he doesn't need many pockets of space. So if there's design plays around him where he's able to hit it off the 3, corner 3, whatever that may be, I think that you end up going for it. He also did really well around the rim as well. I think that he shot 51% from around the rim at 6'1". That's pretty impressive. So I think it's going to be more of Hunter running the ball. That's kind of what I'm looking forward to seeing. But I think Porter, especially a guy in transition, he's very quick too, especially off the dribble. So I think that he will probably end up being the better guy in terms of being a microwave, maybe not scoring 15 points a game, especially with how the ACC is. But I could see pockets of games where he scores 10 plus throughout the year.
Yeah, if I had to guess, I think that Porter ends up being a better shooter than he was last year. And I know he's hit 76 threes last year and shot 35%. But those of you that watch any Conference USA, Middle Tennessee was a good team, but they were a god awful 3-point shooting team. And by de facto, Justin Porter was easily the best shooter on the team, and so the attention was more on him, despite the amount of shots he took, which was almost the most on the team percentage wise. So I do think that the Clemson spacing will be much better for him, and I think he's going to be playing with a better playmaker at point guard in Dillon Hunter, and that's no slight at anyone on Middle Tennessee State, or whether that's Jalen Counter or whoever. I just think Dillon Hunter is a special kind of player.
Butta Johnson also comes in, gives you some more juice on the wing. You said that Brad Brownell wants to go with 3 bigs, but if he wants to go for a more traditional look, Butta Johnson from UAB will be the fulcrum of that. What are your thoughts, Griffin?
I don't really know what to think. I mean, he regressed a little bit, but that's not something I'm going to look over. He averaged 11.2 points the year before this one, 8.8, 1.8 assists, 0.8 steals, 32 from 3. I see him being a really big player in terms of transition. I can see him being a very solid defender, and he hits big shots. I mean, Clemson fans know of him because 2 years ago he hit a game-winning shot or a game-tying shot for UAB when they played Clemson in the midseason tournament. So I don't know what to expect from him. I think that Brownell will put him in the right scenarios to succeed. But like you said, Sam, I think if they don't want to go with 3 bigs, go with Godfrey, Welling, and Davidson. I could see Johnson kind of being one of those guys that they slide into that, that versatile 3 spot that, depending on what type of personnel that they play, they kind of tend to with Johnson. So I'm not worried. I think that he'll end up being great. He's a very experienced guy. Just only time will tell with what he's able to do. He's kind of the big question mark that I have with this team.
Are you a little bit concerned about the overall depth of the backcourt, though? Because I think that's kind of the weakness for this team. Zach Foster, Ace Buckner, kind of being the 2 guards off the bench when Johnson, if they want to play Johnson at the 3, and if not, we'll have to see what happens. But the overall backcourt is pretty thin.
No, I do agree. I do think that Zach Foster will get more minutes than people think. He has been one of the top rated prospects that Clemson's had over the last several years. So, and he's just smooth with the ball. He's a very good facilitator, similar to Hunter. I could see him kind of running that second shift of the offense, maybe not scoring a majority of those points, maybe shifting him with Porter if they were looking for that scoring intake. But with Foster, I'm not worried about him. I think that people have been describing him as a smooth player and a little bit more of a late bloomer. He has been trending up in a lot of different people's power rankings of this class's prospects. 6'4", 180 combo guard. I think that he can fit anywhere. Same thing with Buckner. Buckner didn't play last year. He was shut down, had a red shirt. With another year under his belt, I can see him kind of maybe understanding the offense a little bit more. But I do think that could be a little bit of a question mark with who that backup is going to be. Do we see more minutes coming from Porter and Hunter? But in terms of Foster, I'm not worried. It's just a matter of if Buckner's able to take that next step that he's learned under being a freshman this past season.
Jonathan, this is a Clemson team that you and I are both super high on for this year.
Yeah.
I know you just texted me saying talking it out has made you even higher on them. Why?
Yeah, that doesn't happen very often when we do these, but like
There have been multiple teams on that we've done a tip-off talk for that I've come away from it thinking, damn, this team's not as good as I thought they were.
So it's just the bench thing, at least the backcourt bench, because obviously like the front court has depth. The backcourt doesn't like entirely concern me just because they were fine with a not super deep backcourt last year. Like, first of all, I think Ace Buckner is way better than the kid that they lost to Radford. I'm blanking on his name
Del Jones.
right now. Yeah.
Del Jones, who
he was frankly awful.
Man, there was a great story that people were lying about. There was a great lie that was being told about Del Jones, basically saying, "Oh my God, Clemson lost Del Jones because Radford could pay them more money." No, Clemson lost Del Jones because he's like not that good.
Yeah, I didn't think
Like,
he was
he's a fine ACC role player. He can be the best player
when I watched.
He can be one of the best players in the Big South, or he can be an ACC role player.
Yeah, I didn't think he was that good when I watched the high school tape. I didn't think he was very good last year. I think Big South is probably a better fit for him. And then you have Ace Buckner comes in. He's probably going to know his role. Not going to try to take over games. You're there to be a backup point guard. Give them another ball handling option. And then I'm going to be completely honest here. Like Zach Foster is a guy I need to watch still. Haven't gotten around to him yet. I have gotten to a lot of guys, but not to him yet. And then Sam, we didn't really talk a whole lot about RJ Godfrey. I think he's probably going to be back to like maybe at least what he was 2 years ago, if not better, like depending on, the playing time and how much he's getting the ball and stuff like that. I thought it was a bad decision for him to go to Georgia. He was frankly playing in another loaded front court in a worse system. So like his usage was the same and his efficiency numbers went down because he wasn't playing, in as good of an offense. So I do love that they got him back. He was one of my breakout guys. Last year, it obviously didn't happen. I probably won't put him on my breakout list this year just because, we mentioned it. The front court is so deep. But I do think that he'll be a very, very important player for them off the bench.
All right. Anything else anyone wants to add before we go?
I mean, kind of talking a little bit more about this team. I'm a little bit more higher. I'm kind of glad that we align in terms of Welling, Davidson. I think just with the question of the backcourt, I think that it's something that Brownell will figure out. This is something that he did last year. He's had injury problems 2-3 years ago, having to go through the bug. But I think that this team is going to end up being just fine. I think that maybe not as in front of you as they were last year, being a top 25 team, especially towards the latter end of the year. But I think this team can really play, and you'll start seeing those games, especially, January, February, where they're able to gel well. So I'm not worried about this team. I trust in Brownell. I don't know about how much you guys trust in him, but I do think that this team is built for success, and he's talked pretty well about them.
I stand on it that I think he's, a good offensive coach. I regret some of the things that I said about him after the tournament game last year.
Oh, no. Yeah, obviously. Like, nothing. When a coach loses an NCAA tournament game, everything said in the next, 24 hours about that coach.
Just throw it out the window.
Just throw it out the window.
Exactly.
I said some terrible things about Matt Painter in 2023. And I held on to those way too long. But, Jonathan, would you like to take us home?
I would love to, Sam. If you came to hear about Tyler Self and where he's working, you came to the right place. If you came to not hear about Brad Brownell's game plan for the McNeese zone, you came to the right place. And came to hear about the latest happenings with Caleb Grill, you came to the right place. This has been Season 6, Episode 25 of Brackets, Bubbles, and Bid Stealers, our Tip-Off Talk episode, Clemson edition. We'll be back in a little while with the next episode of Tip-Off Talk. It'll be Vanderbilt. We'll see you soon.